let's get to our next guest. Let's get to our next subject. And it all has to do with relaunching Quebec's economy and fighting the ongoing labor shortage, because it's a big problem right now. It's our pleasure to welcome Karl Blackburn onto the program, President and CEO of the Conseil du patronat du Québec. It's Quebec's largest employers group. Karl, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Elias.
First question, Karl, how much trouble are we in?
A very deep problem. I think not a day goes by without news about the real impact of the ongoing labor shortage. The province's aging demographic will make this a reality until at least 2030. Then we have to address it right now. We have to address it strongly to be able to recover our economy. And it's why it's a very big problem, not only in Montreal, but everywhere in every region in Quebec.
You have proposed 10 solutions to the problem. You just laid it out very clearly how big of a problem is and that it affects every single region. You know, one of the things top of mind is immigrants. And, you know, the CIQ government has dropped the number of immigrants. Have you been making this case directly to the premier? And when it comes to immigration, do you think they'll change their tune on that?
We already discussed with the premier office few times in the last few weeks. But in fact, when we talk about the labor shortage in Quebec, it's so easy to say it's only immigration, but it's more than that. And it's why the Conseil du patronat du Québec is in action. We propose 10 solutions, and all those solutions can be successful if they are taken all together. We can't choose, or we can pick one and two and say, yeah, we're going to the right direction. No, we need to use the 10 solutions we propose, and already some of them are already in place with the Quebec government. I discussed yesterday with Jean Boulet, the labor minister, and we have a good relationship, all him and I. But we need to continue. We need to involve companies. We need to be sure that the population is aware about the situation and how it's so complicated and why we need to address it right now.
One of the things that you bring up in your 10 points, your 10 solutions, is there's a disparity in Quebec when it comes to 60 to 69-year-olds that are employed. But you compare Quebec to the rest of Canada, especially if you compare it to Ontario, we've got relatively fewer 60 to 69-year-olds employed. How do you convince people to stay in the workforce, get back in the workforce, if they're enjoying their life, if they're in retirement, they love their life, Karl? Well, how do you convince someone to say, okay, maybe half retirement from now on? How do you convince them?
You know, I think it's really surprising. It's not a real situation. It's not true that everybody wants to stop and they retire at 50, 55 years old. The work is the best way to realize himself. And it's why if you have to put some specific fiscal program, and it will be helping some old workers between 60 and 69 to continue to contribute at the economy development, our prosperity, and it will be an advantage for them, but it will be also an advantage for us. And it's why if we try just to reach the same level than the Ontario, for example, it means we can reach 75,000 employees, possibly between 60 and 69, and probably they want to continue to work without penalty. And it's why we suggest some modification about the fiscal system.
We're with Karl Blackburn. He's president and CEO of the Conseil du patronat du Québec. It's Quebec's largest employers group. Karl, one thing that's very interesting is that you're advocating, and I look at your 10-point plan, you're advocating for inclusion, right? And what we mean by that is, and I think it ties into immigration, right? You can have more immigrants, right? And you can have people coming into Canada, people coming into Quebec, but if they're immigrants And the workforce isn't doing a good job at inclusion and having people who are diverse, different races, creeds, backgrounds in the workplace. You're going to have a difficult time. And this goes even to Indigenous peoples. It goes to members of the LGBTQ community. So how do you convince, because I think this is on the employers, this is on the group that you represent, how do you get your employers to ramp up inclusion?
We already did a good progress in that specific area. But what we saw and what we can find, there are so many programs. There are so many doors to know to be able to have the good information, and it's why we suggest to create only one door where it will be possible for every person came from the diversity, and also maybe easier for the employers to see which diversity person, which diversity group can join the group and can be able to be reached. And it's why we have so many programs, and we need to put that in place easily for the employers and also for the employees, especially the employees came from the diversity.
Karl, of course, you're on CJAD 800 right now, right? Our listeners are Anglophones, so I'll end off with the question that maybe gets dicey for you. It has to do with language. One of your top points here is about innovation, the shift to technology. When I see the investments the Quebec government is making in high-tech industries, from VFX, video games, AI, right? It's not lost on me that these jobs, they need English, right? You need a workforce that can fill those jobs. And at the same time, we are seeing a renewed push by this Quebec government with Bill 96, with access to, let's say, Anglo CEGEPs so that Francophones can learn English at the CEGEP level. It feels to me like that goes against our end goals. If we want to fill jobs at this point, we should not be restricting access to these things. I'd love to know if you've got some thoughts on that end.
But the CPQ made a survey a few months ago, before Christmas time, and it was about the French, the literacy and numeracy. And we try to put that specific issues, not between the good one and the bad one, the French one against the English one, but we try to put that specific issues on the quality of the French, of course, because we are in Quebec and we need to speak French, but also to be able to include every language in our development and our economy. And something very, very critical, actually, in Quebec. It's more than 53% of the citizens, of the population, are actually analphabet or functional analphabet. And it's why it's so complicated for the companies, for the employers to invest, because at the end of the day, this specific situation make it problematic for the investment, because if you're analphabet or analphabet functional, you can't read the specification, for example, of the new equipment, new technology, and sometimes it's broke the chain, and it's a break for our development. And it's why we try to put that on that specific issues with the economic value, and to be able to put all together, not against one of them, but all together, because here in Quebec, we have the opportunity to be a francophone population, but to have access to an ocean of anglophone population. And it's why if we are able to speak French, but also to speak English, it will be able for our population. And I am the perfect example. I'm not perfectly bilingual. I know it. And I would like to, but it's really complicated. But when I look at the young people in our society, they are majority speak French and also speak English and sometimes speak Spanish, and it's better for them. It's inclusive, and this is the way we want to propose.
I love, by the way, Karl, you are fantastic in English, and I love your thought process there, and I think a lot of our listeners feel the same way. Let's take advantage of Quebec's duality of languages, even the trilingual nature of a lot of places. Let's take advantage. Let's not shy away from it. Karl, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Karl Blackburn is president and CEO of the Conseil du patronat du Québec, Quebec's largest employers group.